Hello and welcome to this episode of Still Irish, Ireland's podcast of record. My name is Killian Foley-Walsh and I can't be frightened out of hiccups. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Councillor Gavin Pepper, who's an independent councillor on Dublin City Council from the Finglas-Ballymun ward. We're delighted to have you, Gavin. Thanks very much for coming in. I know you're taking time out of the schedule to speak to the likes of me, but I appreciate that.
Thanks very much for having me on, Killian.
Not at all. Before I get into it, you're a taxi driver by trade, aren't you?
I am indeed, Killian. I'm originally a plasterer by trade, and then I've been taxiing for many years now. I drive a wheelchair accessible vehicle and I take special needs kids to and from school every day.
Oh, excellent. It's not electric.
No,
Okay.
diesel.
Good. So is mine. Not wheelchair accessible mine, but diesel. So that's it. Well, look, I suppose, a lot of people who are watching this will be familiar with it to a degree, I suppose, already. People who kind of follow our brand of politics and all the rest will know who Gavin Pepper is. But I'd still like to know, I suppose, what it was that got you involved in politics in the first place. What took you away from at least being full-time taxi driver and made you want to jump in for whatever reason into the world of politics in Ireland, which isn't a friendly place, I'd say.
I suppose that's a great question, Killian, and I can start from what really brought it on. But many years ago, and I think you can remember when Roy Keane went out on the Ireland team in Japan, and I was walking on the building site up in Bow Lane, and I was on my way up, and back then on the site I used to read the likes of the Sun at the start. They were the newspapers you buy every morning. But on my way up, there used to be an Irish Independent stand on Grafton Street. And I stopped off at the stand and I said, I'd really like to read a good article in relation to this, what's going on now at the moment. And the man selling the paper says, well, this fella that's writing in the Irish Independent really goes, it's a good article. And he hands me this newspaper and it's probably about that long. It's like, what? But I bought it and he goes, have a read of it. It's a good article. He's a good writer. So we went onto the site and all the lads were like, where did you run up that? And it was people, what's that? And I said, look. It was a great article, but what stunned me was I was used to reading tabloids, these like papers with garbage in the front few pages, with a little bit of news. And I noticed there was more about news and politics and what was actually going on in the country in the Indo. I actually really enjoyed reading it. And I continued to purchase it and continued to follow it. And that got me really into reading David McWilliams. I read Dave McWilliams, The Economist, for a long time, and he was talking about the bubble and the housing, and he actually, by reading him, I actually wouldn't purchase a house. I was able to purchase a house at the time, I was saving, but he tore me off, and I kept saying to a lot of the lads, he's saying this is all going to crash, and the lads used to be saying, he's right, it's not for real. You know what I mean? But
it was Bertie Ahern was talking about him when he said, go off in the dark room with a bottle of whiskey and a gun.
Absolutely. And so when that went on, and I read it through it, and I read Charlie Weston a lot, and still do, and then came on into what's going on now in the country, right? So at the start, what got me into it was across the road from where I live is the Bargain Town, and first of all, it was East Wall actually. There was protests in town, and I didn't know what was going on, and then people were saying there was loads of illegal migrants coming into the country and men being put into places. And I was like, what? But it turned out it was correct. Yeah. And then I found when you questioned that, when you tried to ask local representatives about it, you were just shut down, which I found astonishing because, you hear that Ireland's meant to be a democracy, but it's really like just about narrative, and if you don't agree with their narrative, they call you these mad names. So the more they were doing that, the more infuriated I was getting, saying, hang on a minute, there's a lot of women, because I'll never forget, it was women that were out first, and there was a lot of women out protesting, and you were being called horrible names, like mothers with prams. That's the demands with prams. That's the fact of it. And that made me say, hang on a minute, how come people from a different side of the city are coming over to protest against people on the other side of the city in working class communities that don't want these men put into their areas because of safety concerns, because there's not enough resources in the community. Working class areas, we struggle with school places, like wait for doctor's appointments. They're deprived areas, disadvantaged areas that have been forgotten about, Killian, for many, many decades. And the truth is, when you go out to Dalkey and Killian, they're well better, more funded, and then you're saying, oh, hang on a minute, yous have the money over there. And you are saying welcome refugees at the time was what they were saying, but you don't want them in your community, but you want us to take them in their community. And if we say anything, we're called names. So, no, I wasn't accepting that. I was saying this is ridiculous. And then the more you looked into what was going on in the country, the more it shocked me, the more it stunned me. At the end of the day, like, I want kids to grow up and feel that we teach them we can be anything you want them, but if you can, you can prosper, that's the idea of life. If you just tell them this is what you can do and that's it, what sort of a country is that? Your voice is the most important thing you can have, Killian, and you have to be able to speak out. And I tell my kids, never be afraid to speak out. That's democracy. I mean, we're sitting here today, you've had to invite me on the show, and whether you agreed with me or not politically, you're willing to have me on your podcast and talk to me.
I do agree with you, by the way.
Well, no, but you know what I mean. And yet, like an example is, you take the Social Democrats. Just an example, right? You take Rory here. He's a TD in the Dáil, right? During the election, he didn't get elected as a councillor, right? Like in the council, right? So I was a councillor in my LEA. So he decided to run in the general election, which I did too. But he got brought onto the television. He was given mainstream media publicity. They didn't allow me on. They wouldn't bring me on, which is because they know that if they tried to sit beside me for 5 minutes, I would expose everything that they are. I even said many times, I said you could have Mary Lou McDonald, Micheál Martin, Simon, you can have every leader on one side, give them all 6 minutes each. I know it's set on the other side by 6 minutes. Put it on national television and we'll see who wins.
It'll almost make the TV license worth paying.
Exactly. And that's the ridiculous thing about it. But we just live in this upside down country that, like, small businesses are being imploded. They're closing down. They're struggling. The shops are derelict, some of them, and it's sad to see. This is our country, and it's a beautiful country. And when I grew up here, we went to places like Mosney, and we went down the country on holidays. Now you don't want it. Now, like, you shut Mosney down. What sort of future does that set for the kids of this country? Like, I want my kids to grow up, right? Have our culture, know who we are as Irish people. Like, we fought for this country. You know what I mean? Our heroes did. And I want my kids to know about that. Like, if I want to learn about German stuff, I'll go to Germany and learn on a holiday. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to know about overseas problems. We've enough problems here in our own country that we don't seem to be dealing with. And it's always one topic after another to avoid talking about the important topics. That's the reality of it. And the important topics in this country is that businesses are struggling. The cost of living crisis is out of control. We have too many illegal immigrants in the country. I mean, they broke the law at the start. They came here illegally, And the reality of it is, most of them are coming across from the UK, over to the north, down to the south, and claiming as their refugees. Then they get put up in state-of-the-art accommodation facilities where a handful of people are making millions. And then Irish homeless families, Killian, are being put into old, run-down bed and breakfasts and hostels that are not up to standard.
If they're lucky.
If they're not.
In some cases, yeah.
And I'm sure you saw my interviews, which the media still try to avoid talking about. I'm interviewing real people in their room with 2 cots beside us and a bed above me in a room smaller than my daughter's box room. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. What sort of standard is that? And then this is where David McWilliams stuns me at the moment. This is why I'm so disappointed in him. So, from someone that was classed as earnings poster boy at communist, he clearly doesn't understand basic economics at the moment, which is supply and demand. We do not have enough supply in this country to meet demand, whether it be housing, healthcare, school places, everything. Like, if you have 50,000 houses available for purchase or rent, right, and you have 80,000 people looking for them, and then all of a sudden you decide to bring in another 100,000, which the 80,000 couldn't afford them in the first place. So it's just going to drive up the price. That's all it does. And then it leaves people struggling. And the truth of the matter is, when I go around my area and when I go to certain estates, we have up to 12, 13, in some places 20 non-nationals that are from here. Now, some of them are working, some of them are not. They can afford it if there's so many of them in one house. So the rent is $4,000.
We're split mortgages as well in our US, split rent. And
was a young couple meant to compete with that? I mean, in December, Killian, there wasn't one house available under the HAP, like under what you could afford on HAP. Like, that is bonkers. So that means, like, the whole system here is broken. So you say, well, I'm in politics. It's because we have a system that's broken. We have a judicial system that's broken. We have a housing system that's broken. And we have a healthcare system that's broken. And that makes no sense because, when they call me names, so they'd say, oh, Gavin, we think you're big or you're far right, which is the names they use to shut you up. And then I say, well, I want universal healthcare, universal childcare, social and affordable housing, and free.
A communist bigot.
That makes no,
No, I get it. Yeah, it's a total contradiction.
So they just, and as I say, other than illegal immigration, what do you disagree with me? And you know what their answer is? Oh no, we disagree with illegal immigration. And then I'm like, so what's your problem really then? Say, is it because the fact of the matter is, when Simon Harris comes out and says it, they won't call him names in the dock. And then the other day, Ben Scanlon, I think it was Ben that questioned Simon Harris in relation to things we've been speaking about a very long time. Suspended sentences for sex offenders. Oh yeah, we need to look into that legislation. So when he says it, it's socially acceptable. So what I see is a form of classism where working class communities being punched down on by upper class elites for years. But let's not mistake something. A lot of people from wealthy areas, the majority of people from upper class wealthy areas, want to help people in working class areas. They don't like seeing what they're seeing. Sure, they stop me all the time. You know, and are always talking, and that's why I don't listen to what the mainstream media says. They try to upset people, Killian, and have people divided, and that's why the same two parties are in power, because that's what they do: get you to disagree with them, and in 4 years it's a different topic, and they stay in power. They make it look like they're the normal party, and the reason why they do it is because me and you and all the people that we talk to have bailed out the banking sector, bailed out RTE with taxpayers' money, and they use RTE to prop them up. So that makes no sense. That's why I was reading like there, Kieran Cuddihy, he wants to get the late job. I've no doubt in my mind that eventually he will get it, right? Because he agrees with everything, he just does what he's told. You know what I mean? And something that strikes me is people say all these journalists, and I give out about a lot of journalists, but how come like someone like Samantha Liberati, who I think is good on RTE, doesn't get to move up the ladder quicker? She's not afraid to have a chat with you if she interviews. She'll interview anyone. Whether she agrees with you or not, that's not the point. It's a democratic way. Why are they putting a woman forward for the late show? Like, you know, how come that's not the talk? So I find there's a lot of inequality in this country. But it's weird because they use NGOs to tackle the issue. I mean,
well, they say they use NGOs to tackle the issue, but I think a lot of the time these NGOs literally only exist for the sake of their own pay packets, you know?
Yeah, but they're the NGOs that get to come out on television or talk and be in the papers. I mean, like the National Women's Council, you know, I'm talking about suspended sentences for sex offenders and paedophiles that are walking out courtrooms I've been in that have thousands of downloaded sick images, and they won't talk about that. But then they'll come out and say, Elon Musk, that scallywag with his ex-rock images. I mean, we better do something about that. I mean, I know what we'll do. Let's go out and have a protest about it and call for Elon's resignation. In fact, no, I have a better idea. Why don't we just shut down social media? And we'll say it. I mean, I think it was a social democrat actually, where he says, we could get the narrative going ourselves. And that's pure bonkers. These people talk about being against communism. That's promoting communism. You know, your man over in North Korea would be very proud of the way they're going on at the moment, because that's to me like a dictatorship. And it just astonishes me what's happening in this.
We'll have no more impressions of me from you now, if that's all right.
But that's not. No, as I say, what I said was, majority of people from upper class areas do not look down on working class areas. That's the complete opposite. It's a select few that put out that perspective from people. And that, you know, this is an issue. People always want to talk about the drugs and the problems in the area. Yes, I live in Phoenix. Yes, we have problems with drugs and crime in the area.
Don't just Kilkenny.
Yeah, there you go. But what I'm saying is, in the area, why does that happen? Because there's no investment in our area. There's not enough. Years ago, there used to be summer camps that went on the whole of summer. Cuts. And if you don't invest in areas and help the people that are very disadvantaged, you've got inequality. And these people talk about inclusion and equality. And yet, I think it's 1 in 4 children nearly live in poverty. I don't know if that's the facts of it, but it was in 2024, I think. So how do you fix poverty? You invest in the areas that need it. And that way, when you look at Blackrock, take Blackrock, a lot of people from Blackrock and they're kidding, we see they BMWs and Mercedes in our area, right? But that's because a lot of them would be barristers, doctors, and good jobs. Why can't the kids in Finglas, Ballybourne, and Tala and Sheriff Street and all get that? If you invest in the community and help those kids go on and get third level education, because don't forget, Killian, education is the key to success. But one thing about education is politicians should not be allowed into universities to have seminars with students. I don't believe that should be allowed. I used to work for UPS during COVID.
Delivery, right?
Yeah. and we used to deliver to UCD Belfield. And I remember when I walked in, around the whole walls, there was flyers everywhere. Now, it was probably for fall. I think it was Richard Boyd Barrett or one of those was having like seminars there. Like, that's astounding, because you're allowing politicians into like universities to, obviously they're going to talk what they believe in. But I think in school, it's like trying to teach kids about sex education. School should not be for that stuff. School is for maths, English, Irish, history. Teach them education that will make them successful in life. Send business people in to teach them business. Stuff that they can actually gain from. Not stuff that they don't need, that they learn themselves when they're older.
Yeah, or that maybe the family should be responsible for kind of, teaching, instead of the state stepping in. No, it's funny, like, you're even reminding me of when I was in college. I went to Maynooth first, and then I went to UCD afterwards, and I was obviously heavily involved in Young Fine Gael at the time, and we were always bringing in, people who we thought people wanted to hear from, Of course, now I'm older, I realize, who the hell wants to listen to Simon Harris in college? Or they could be drinking or whatever, but it's Temperance Sunday, by the way, I'm not pushing it. Yeah, it's an interesting point that actually, it is really just indoctrination, especially when these politicians themselves have a vested interest, particularly in the education that's being pushed in these places, to try and make sure that these young people are of their mindset, which is very often warped anyway. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thought to keep them out of the colleges and everything else. If you want to go and talk to a politician or hear from one, go to a clinic or something like that. The rest of the time, be in college.
It is. It's astonishing what way the country runs. And as I said, we are falling apart as a country. I mean, if you asked me a couple of years ago and said to me, Gavin, do you think we should leave the EU? I would have called you mad. I would have said, are you for real? He's a head case. That right. But now, if you ask me, now I'd leave the EU tomorrow, because they dictate everything we do, and they're always going on about us and like what this, that, and the other. And what's happening in Ireland? We're falling out. We're American. All the multinational tech sector and pharmaceutical companies are the ones that invest in this country. That's where the money is, And if they all leave, who's going to suffer? One, rich people. Right. It's going to be the disadvantaged areas that suffer, because when cuts are made, it's always the people on lowest incomes that suffer the most. Like an example today, and I cut up a picture. A tube of Colgate toothpaste was €9.30 in the shop. If that's not a cost of living crisis, then I don't know what is. Because like one-off payments in budgets, which is what the use, it doesn't help. It doesn't fix the problem. Let's give a help to buy scheme. Let's increase the pay, and it just makes the house go up, and people are poorer. That doesn't fix the problem. You build, you bring back, and one thing I would agree with the left on as well, like, I do agree with them on a lot of what they say, nearly all. We need the council to be back building houses, but Ireland doesn't do that. This is the issue I have with companies coming. We should be banning overseas investors from purchasing property in Ireland for starters. That's a start.
I think the socialist government in Spain did that lately.
Yeah, no, it should be done 100%. And one of the biggest issues. This is how bad. We talk about the government. How much does the government hate you? That's my question in life. Well, it wants to take blister packs off elderly people, right? It allows companies that I've went to court with, that took me to court, that come into this country, right, and claim themselves to be as debt collecting companies, right, where they collect the debts that the bank couldn't get, right? So the young couple that purchased the house when Ireland was flying and can no longer afford their mortgage, and they're struggling, they're in debt, they're in arrears, the bank then gets to sell this mortgage to this company without that person's permission, which is madness, right? They then, so if the rate was 3% or 4%, they then raise the rate to 9%, right? But sure, they couldn't pay the debt when it was 3% in the first place. In the end, that company then sells the house for a profit, tosses that family out, who then end up in emergency accommodation. And let's not forget, Killian, it costs €180,000 for a family that needs a 3-bedroom a year in emergency accommodation. And what does the government do? Absolutely nothing. In the end, you have to get a council house and house that family get. Now, if that's not paddywhackery, I don't know what is, because that makes no economic sense to me whatsoever.
180,000.
180.
I'd never heard that figure before. No, I'm not doubting you. No, it actually doesn't surprise me, because of course that's how things are done in Ireland.
3-bed.
Yeah. That's like a family with maybe teenage kids or something like that, who would need a room each.
Absolutely bananas, and it makes no sense. And all it does is cause more mental health. Like, in the end, this all leads to the health sector. Like children growing up in a hotel room. Anybody that thinks that's acceptable in this society, shame on them. Because I'm a taxi driver. That's the difference I have in all these politicians. I have everybody in my car from all walks of life, doctors, neurosurgeons. That's why I was heavily talking about the nitrous oxide in my communities. Politicians didn't want to talk about that. In fact, the politicians, right? So it was brought up in the council, and we got to have the topical issue, right? Kieran Perry was one of the politicians, right? He done a video and was in the paper talking about nitrous oxide, but when I wanted to talk about it in the council, no, whoever put that forward should take that down. Right, John Lyons, Daithí Doolin, didn't want to talk about it. And you know what it is? And I'll tell you what it is. It's because they don't want to see somebody else put in a good idea. Because I put in a motion that all companies, the manufacturer should have to put a barcode on the can, and whatever company buys the cans, if they don't return it, they face massive penalties and fines. There you go, problem solved, out of the hands of kids. But they don't want to do that. But what I do know is that as much as I call out the government, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, I do, they don't give me too much abuse. They will hear me on things, on issues. Where people on the left, which is mad, which are meant to share the same cities, don't want to hear what I have to say. I'm talking about the politicians, but all their voter base, they all love me. I used to have Sinn Féin voter people, they all love me. I don't.
Transfers there.
Yeah, well, please God. But I don't mind what some people say. It's that, unfortunately, some people are just stuck in their ways. They have to. They don't agree with our party, but the party whip decides what they have to do, and that's the big thing. People say, "Gavin, why don't you join a party? You get more done." Well, what party do I see that I could join right now?
Just going to ask you that question. I doubt there's any.
Son, at the moment, you take Aintu, and I would agree with some stuff on what Aintu says, but I believe Aintu was like Sinn Féin Junior. I'm just saying that I don't understand that. But Paul Lawless, brilliant, a brilliant man. That's a man. That Ken O'Flynn, that's a man. They're the sort of individuals that actually mean business in this cause, that actually care about the society they live in. And then you take Sinn Féin, like Mary Lou. Does all Sinn Féin people agree with what she does? I don't think so. Simon Harris is the same. I mean, come on.
They're all cults of personality, a lot of that.
That's it. And then you have these political leaders in power, like Micheál, that I'm sorry, but they're not the full shilling. They say some good stuff, but realistically, you look at the doll. There's the doll. Surely we're having a great day. We only owe the bar 60 grand. Now imagine if you were a small publican running a small pub, right, in this country, up in Galway or down the country with rural Ireland that's always forgotten about, that doesn't get talked a lot about, look. And when the floods happen down there, it's detrimental. Look. Do you think Piercy is an honest question to you, I know, on the viewing. You think that a small publican could afford a 60 grand?
Of course not. Absolutely not. No company could afford, or no small company could afford to have a sort of a 60 grand debt of any kind built up for them.
And then after they have a few points, you go out to the, 18 bikes on the woodshed that cost us 360 grand, the cycle home laughing, sinking merry down the road. These people are grifters and chancellors. We have a children's hospital that's not finished yet, right? That's built in the wrong place. I don't care what you said. It shouldn't be built out of Blanchardstown. They didn't put people from down the country out in their thoughts saying, we could have a bigger car park or really. No, put it in the city centre or the Griglock. Right, and then what did he do? He allowed the Greens to run away with themselves and said, let's just put a bike lane everywhere. I mean, we'll put a bike lane there, over there, put bollards there. Let's make this a one-way street. Who did it? Blame Trump. Blame Elon Musk. Blame the fossil fuel.
Forget Putin.
Don't talk about Putin. And who's okay? Well, China's okay. They're the biggest polluter in the world, but China's okay. And it's absolutely bananas. Are they tackling issues? No. Is Ireland getting better? No. Why is it not getting better? Because you go into petties. Now, you went to petties, right? And it's like, that started self-service machines in loads of shops. Because that's going to create loads of jobs. That's self-service machines. But you went to bank self-service machines. Customer service. I'd rather be charged a little bit to talk to people. When you're trying on something, someone helping you. But what's happening? The young people are turning to Shein. They're going online and they're ordering online because the t-shirt's €2. And then you hear the brains, don't go online. That's made in a sweatshop in some country abroad. So you care now? All of a sudden you care now? It's people don't give a crap. And yet they fly around the world, these same political leaders, on luxury planes, eating steak dinners in Brussels, talking about third world problems when you can't fix their own problems in their own country. It's the most backwards system in the world. And the gas part is it's deliberate. Because I'm sorry, but you don't need to be an Oxford scholar or a Trinity College graduate to know that the thing is being ran wrong. Well, you don't. Joe Soap on the street sees it. But thanks to Kevin Backhurst and his RTE crew that don't allow people on to talk about it and have their say. And this is not a stab at all of RTE, because I pick RTE staff up that like that be going into town, genuine muggers that work in RTE, and they're not ours, 300 grand.
It's just a job.
Just some of them are only on average wage. You know what I mean? But this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, like, you know, like even when you watch the news. I mean, do you watch the news?
To be honest, I don't. No, I read about it obviously, and I tend to get it from abroad more than anything else. But I do not watch the RT news or anything along those lines. No.
Well, this is the RTE news. So. Not 6-1 news. We're going to talk about Ukraine for the first 15 minutes, maybe Russia for the next 5 minutes, and what's happening over in the Middle East for the next 10 minutes. And down in Cork, there was a real crash there. Pascal live on Pascal Biani say, like, slaughtering the city centre today. Oh, say anything about that. And then they're like, okay, there's a load of tents on Mount Street. These people, these poor unfortunate people, we have to help them. But the US are coming over, we're playing a game. There's a game over here. Leave it up, move them. No, I don't care where you put them, move them. We need this to look beautiful. Yo, Paddy's Day is coming. Let's make the country look fabulous and move all the homeless people that are on the streets being left behind. Don't do that. Yo, I believe the government's philosophy in this country is to have second-hand phone shops, barber shops, and kebab shops all over the place. Because that's all I see. Did you see Grafton Street? What you were trying to do with the counter? I've done a video with the flower seller on Mao's there, 100 years old, selling flowers on Grafton Street. They beautiful, absolutely fabulous, Killian. And the shops buy them, the restaurants buy them. They deliver all over the country. They do funerals, weddings, and Valentine's Day. And give them grief. You're taking up too much space. And you know,
instead of what?
Instead of going after criminals. So, you know, that's my point, what I was saying. Like, we have drug dealers in the country that, you know, if you wanted to fix these problems, you could. You know, like, at the end of the day, I believe we should have a strong police force, strong CAB, you know, but we don't have a CAB. You know, this is Ireland. This is Ireland at the moment. We're so angry with you, we're going to send you a letter telling you how angry you are. No, wait, scratch that. We're going to send you an email telling you how angry you are, and you better respond. What?
Can we have your email address?
Please respond. Yeah. Like, what? You know? And then you go into court and some people have 100 convictions. Like, how can you have 100 convictions? Here he is again. Oh, they have the solicitor represent him for the 100th time. And now, you know, poor Johnny, you know, sorry, back down. Then, like, like, you don't pay if you don't pay a PV license, that criminal, that you didn't, what? Fine him. Then in comes the next guy. You see the judge and he said, you have how many images? 5,000 images? And this is like, yeah, Your Honor, yeah. I did. And what have you got to say for yourself? I'm sorry, Your Honor. You little scallywag. Don't do that again. I sent you to 3 years, but you're not going to spend a day in prison. Suspended sentence. Yeah? You know what I mean? If anybody thinks that is normal, we are in a dangerous country.
But you see, we do think it's normal. I'm not speaking, no, it's the royal we. It's like the country generally thinks it's normal because it's what we've been conditioned into. And you were even talking about media and everything else and the good hard-working people of RTE, the ordinary people as opposed to the higher-ups and everything. That's all grand. But they know what side their bread is buttered on. So when you talk about media, I think I saw over the week, what is it, 750 million or something like that is pumped into Irish media every year by the government, something along those lines. Sure, if they don't have the same people in charge, these media organisations, I mean, they're not getting that money. If you were the Taoiseach, would you be doling out, subsidising the media in the country? Exactly.
The media should be doing this.
So why do you think you don't get to go on media organizations or on the news or anything like that? Because they know that you're unfortunately their enemy, you know, and you and everybody you represent, which is, I would say, 75 or 80% of the country, if they actually just thought about it, all their enemy. So that's why you don't get on. And yeah, it just, I don't know, it upsets me when I think about it, and it does beg a belief. But I think the people, unfortunately, are brainwashed by all this stuff. You're talking about the 6-1 News, how I don't watch it, but most people do, unfortunately. And they buy into it. They're staring at the screen, dribbling and everything else. And they just, yeah, that's the gospel truth. Musk is bad, Trump is bad, all the rest of it. This is what we're to believe from now on.
I know. This is mad. We got 3 lads in the car there, maybe a taxi. going back from, I don't know where you are, they actually told me you were part of like the Communist Party or something.
Of course they were.
And I'm like, what party? And you
Were they well fed? They're usually well fed.
I mean, I couldn't believe the stuff that was coming out of their mouths. And I was like, what? I said, I'm not letting my kids grow up in a communist country. Are you for real? Like, do you actually think I'm going to allow that to happen? And I mean, so what do you mean? I says, well, look, it's common sense. You need capitalism to pay for social services. Otherwise, there's no money moving around. Like, this is common sense, you know? Like, we are living in a country where common sense doesn't matter, and they're allowing people on that are completely, like, not intelligent. Look, in my opinion, and I wouldn't even say I'm super intelligent, you know, like, I don't have a third level education, but I know what's right.
Doesn't matter, you're definitely top 1%, I'd say, based on what you're saying. I know
what's right and wrong here, you know, and what's happening is wrong, because if you can walk down the street and walk past your own citizen, your own Irish homeless person, and see them underneath a bridge or outside a shop. Like yesterday when I interviewed the girl, it was Valentine's Day yesterday, wasn't it?
So I'm told.
Outside the Disney shop, there was a man homeless. Now the guys were moving, you know, they were that obviously, but I'm not blaming the guys. I'm saying, well, what sort of system is that? That is not the Ireland I want. I believe we should have a facility in town, a big, huge building, and you should give people a free bus pass, or, you know, say, okay, no matter where you are in the city, you have to come here at night time. We have dinner, breakfast, showers, everything for security around you. You know what's going to happen to you. And there's going to be loads of security staff. There's going to be loads of wraparound services for you. But no, we give it to Ukraine. We give Zelensky a fortune, the grifter, coming over here with a begging bowl while our own people are struggling. That makes us, and then they turn around to these rich businessmen and say, the handful of people say, do you know what? So there's a few, Bob, you're on the Holiday Inn, put these people in your hotel, right? And a lot of them are working, buses coming to pick them up, to bring it out of the back of the airport or working through big niche. Remember, this is about low pay. This is about keeping people on low pay, right? And exploiting migrants for lower wages, to keep wages down. Remember, the central bank of the years ago, they had a yoke saying, we need more migrants to keep wages lower. Like, this is what, so it suits these, like, some companies to pay them lower and stuff like that. It suits some people. But the small people, the small handful of business people that own these pass centres are making an absolute fortune. You know, but yeah, how come they get everything? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, broadband, Netflix, and can work. And then a young Irish couple gets up in the morning that works at McDonald's and they get medical and they don't need their means tested for a medical card. Or your means tested for carers payment. Do you, like means tested for carers, you don't care about the disabled. And as you said, which was very important, the hand-picked NGOs that are meant to represent these organisations, and a couple of them are on, mad money. And the answer is, you just shut up and do as we tell you to say. You go on out there, you stand up, you be on the prime time tonight, and we're going to say you're great. And you just do that, and no matter what this person asks you, just ignore them. And that was my point. You had the yoke with Jerry the other night, Paul Healy harassing him about a show that he's having. And would Paul Healy go and ask former Minister for Children, Roger Gorman, about the abuse, the lead first that he had made the reviews? No, he won't.
Or too sorry, everything that goes with it. Of course not.
So is he a journalist? No, he's not a journalist in my opinion. No, he's not. And none of them are. And the gas part is, they're not real journalists, because what happens is, even when I've done interviews, they do the article, they do the interview, and then they go up to the editor upstairs. He says, "Oh, we won't be having that." In fact, I won't say the journalist's name because they do give me a bit of time. Their editor wouldn't allow them give them articles about me unless it said at the start, anti-immigrant. Now, I'm actually anti-illegal immigration, but that is the reality.
And there's more to you than that as well, you know.
That's the point. I'm a good
pro-social housing councillor, you know.
I want me people. I want the houses fixed, and that's the thing. You say, like, as a councillor, I do get a lot done. We're getting people's houses fixed, paths fixed. Paul, remember, politics is local, and that's what it is. You have to look after your community local. I would like the issues across, but it's the hook that never stops at home. That where people reaching out to you every day. Yeah. And the sad part of my job is the amount of people that reach out to me on top of my own community, from outside my community.
That's a job. Nobody there was in.
And not doing that all job.
Nobody mind.
And that signs, and I think, I don't know if it's true, but a politician once said to me that years ago, if you done absolutely nothing as a politician, you'd have a 75% chance of getting re-elected, because when people go in to vote, which is the lower numbers, unfortunately, they tick the boxes, they know that colour, that's being right, or whatever, and then same people just go back in and back in. So what we need is something I asked. We need to make sure every kid that's 18 is registered to vote when they're leaving school. That's what we need. We need change. We need real change. Not this Mickey Mouse colour on a sign change. We need change. We need kids to feel energized, that they can get up and say, look, this is our country. This can be a great country. This has the potential to be a great country. And we're going to make it a great country. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, Killian. Because everybody in the world laughed at the Republic of Ireland when we brought in the smoking ban. And what did they all go and do? They go and copied it. So Ireland has the potential to be the best country in the world, where unfortunately the people in the Dáil have the potential to keep themselves rich and fix nothing.
Well, look, what a note to end on. We're going to have to call a halt there, I think, Gavin, I'm afraid. It won't be the last time. I can assure you that, just to keep the microphone rest and going from there. But thank you very much for coming in. I'm strongly considering moving my vote to Ballymum, for the next time. We didn't get to talk about everything I wanted to talk about, but there'll be another time, like I said. So really appreciate you coming on. We need more of this, genuinely. Yeah. Absolutely, ever. Well, look, as usual, thank you very much for joining us at home or wherever you're watching us from. We really appreciate your support in every episode that we do. As usual, if you can, please follow us on Spotify. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. All the social media traction that we can get really helps us to keep producing this sort of stuff. Thanks again to Gavin for coming in. We're looking forward to having you back again soon, and the best of luck with everything in the future. We're rooting for you.
Thanks, Killian. Really appreciate it. Thanks.